So recently, whilst clearing out the loft, I discovered this. My very first Warhammer army. God, I thought I was cool. I had the fake crocodile skin briefcase, the cardboards cut out of the boxes they came in, stuck on the front for my Dark Elves for Warhammer Fantasy Battle games. And I looked at the minis and realised, one, I still really like them, they're really cool sculpts, but two, I'd like to think that my painting has probably come a long way since 12-year-old me did this. So I thought I'd do a little video on the best way to strip minis so that you can restore your old beloved models as well, or any that you might get secondhand through eBay or shops or whatever. When we think about stripping a mini, we're trying to take the paint off but not damage the model underneath it. This model is all metal, so I could go and use acetone, which will break down all of the acrylic in the paint but leave the model completely unscathed. However, it's an acid basically, and smells quite bad, and also can deteriorate your hands, especially if you don't wear gloves. It makes your hands go all white. It's just not very nice. Secondly, and my favourite method, because I tend to strip quite a few minis depending on what I'm doing, or I change my mind on paint schemes, and I don't want to have lots of different liquids to use, I use one. It's cheap, it's really effective, and it's by far my favourite way of doing things. Your humble Dettol. It's cheap, you can pick up from pretty much most boots, supermarkets or pharmacies, but you must make sure that you get the original Dettol, not any of the new versions for, you know, surface cleaner or whatever. It has to be this version because this stuff breaks down paint. So now we've got my favourite bottle for breaking down paint. The reason this is my favourite bottle is because you can do this with, you can use any mini with this. It can be plastic, it can be resin, it can be metal. Dettol does it all because it only seems to target the paint. So now we've got this, let's go to the kitchen and we will start stripping our little mini. Let's go. So we've got our Dettol. Now this big red tub here is full of Dettol and is my usual bath for my minis. So I'm going to do a few more out of that in a minute. I've got some Lord of the Rings ones in there and stuff like that. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to decant some Dettol into it. The one thing I do like about Dettol is you can see into it, so you can see what it's doing to the paint and if your mini's ready to be cleaned. The only downside I have with Dettol is that it doesn't work that fast. So I will be leaving that in there now for a few hours and we'll come back later and give it a brush up. Okay, so we're back. It's a few hours later. Our jar of Dettol in our minis is looking pretty good. On the bottom of that is, well, there's a lot of paint flakes floating around inside, so it's clearly working. So what we're going to do now is aggravate it and take the rest of the stuff off with a toothbrush. Now, a simple toothbrush will do, a cheap one, supermarket, shop, whatever. One thing I will say is I've found in the past that some of those brushes, they've got the plastic bits in the middle of the bristles. Sometimes that plastic gets agitated by the Dettol, so I wouldn't recommend those. Just get a basic brush with nothing else in it other than just bristles. And also we're going to need a pair of gloves, because even though this is an antiseptic and a cleaner, you don't really want it over your hands because it does smell a little bit and just reminds me of the smell of antiseptic all day long. And we've also got, there's some paper towel here on the counter side, that's to protect it from the paint flecks and the Dettol and the liquid and all that kind of stuff, and just try and keep it a bit tidy. So to start with, we're going to simply take a mini out and start brushing away. In hindsight, a jar probably wasn't the best idea. Maybe they're just using that big tub, but I thought it would look cool on camera, so that's why I used a jar. So, up next, on camera there, we've got the Blackguard. I think it's Blackguard. Now this probably will be all GW paints. Clearly the goblin green on the bottom there. Is that even a thing anymore? I don't think it is. Oh, off comes his halberd. And you can see here, because I know this was painted in acrylics, because I wasn't allowed to have metal minis as a kid until I could actually do basic painting properly. Well, not properly, but I didn't spill all the paints, or I didn't ruin it, and all that kind of stuff. I knew these were all going to be in acrylic paint at least, if not GW paint. And as we can see from this guy, it has all come off quite nicely. Whether that comes up on that camera or not, it's all come off rather nice. Is it going to separate in the base? Don't think it will. I think that glue is... I don't particularly want to break the square base. No, that's still on there pretty well. Now, Dettol is, or can be, sticky on the once it's been used, so it's always advisable afterwards to swill it off with like warm soapy water. So to get a bit of washing up liquid in your hands, take the brush and agitate it. It's a good way of doing a final scrub on the Mini. I'll put it into this so I can see it here, but all I'm doing is now washing all the soap suds around to get off most of the Dettol. Normally if I'm doing a batch stripping of paint, I'll do all of them at the end, but for the purpose of this I'm just going to do them one at a time. Hopefully that water's not too loud in the microphone. But there, it's come out very nicely. Not quite as good as new, because there's still some paint left in the chainmail, but certainly enough that I can work with that. And lastly, is this the executioner? Yes! Here's the executioner. Currently, as you can see, half painted, green all over it. Same again, just start brushing off the paint, swirling the brush out and starting again. Really trying to get into all those creases of the model. That looks pretty good. So same again, I'm going to get a touch of Fairy Up liquid, swirl the brush, a lot less than that, swirl the brush and swirl the Mini out. Give it a pat dry. And that has come out pretty good. Again, there's still got all the paint stuck in the chainmail areas, but I'm not going to sit there with a toothpick and get every single one of those out. So, good enough for me to do a repaint job. All I probably will do is, when I get it on the table, I'll get my craft knife and just cut away. There's a couple of excess pieces of glue stuck around his wrists where the banner attachment part is. I'll probably just cut that away and sort that out later. That's how Dettol works. It's brilliant. It's probably the safest version, I would say, probably for most of the stuff that you can use. The spirits are dangerous. Well, they're acid or spirits, either way. So I like Dettol because it's a safe substance to use. If you get it on you, the worst thing it's going to do is give you a clean. So, can't be bad, can it? So with that in mind, let's head back upstairs and wrap up the video. So now we're back upstairs. Let's have a little look at how they've come out properly now that I can sit down with them with the camera. So, on the right here we've got what we've just taken out of the Dettol, swilled off and prepped. And on the left here is a couple of other models just to give you an idea of what they looked like before. This guy was especially cool. Look at the size of the axe. But clearly, 12-year-old me did something different. Is that blue tack? It is blue tack, so that'll be a fun restoration. So here's the executioner, and here's how he looks after the Dettol. I think that will be plenty enough for me to try and repaint him. And then the guard. Here's an example of what he liked before with the rest of them. And now he looks now. Aside from this clearly bit of blue tack I used as a kid, which I will pick off with a knife because obviously the Dettol won't affect it, he looks like he's good to go. Question is, do I keep the square bases or do I put them in rounds? So there we have two of our minis stripped of paint and ready to go again in the new project, or restoration or whatever. A base coat and then painting as normal. It can be used on plastic, metal and resin. So it's a great universal one to have and not dangerous to have around the house should any accidents or spillages happening, because it's just antiseptic cleaner. So that's it for this video. If this is something that you enjoy watching or content that you like, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the page for more content, and the alert bell for letting you know when the next video is coming out. If there's any ideas you'd like for future videos, please pop them in the comments below, or if there's any other form of paint stripping technique that you use, pop it in the comment. Let's all learn and grow together. So until the next video, thanks for tuning in, thank you for watching, take care, and we'll see you later. Goodbye.